Why do I belong in places that did not bring me up at all? A historical conservative town up the northern plains of India, where my mother arrived before me without choice. Her marriage arranged and bound, away from her friendly hometown, where I arrived in about 10 months of her displacement. In a town that did not like me or my mother for being too bold to dress up in jeans instead of a traditional sari. The women often envying her outspoken ideas, which they thought in private. They surely did not like me, firstly, because I was born a girl, and secondly, I resembled my mother too much. As a little girl, maybe that's why I had a tough time understanding her advice when she said, make your own money so you don't get stuck like me. And I thought, what joy does it give you to chase it? As a high schooler whose bills got paid, I couldn't understand why she felt helpless. When she was taken care of with my father's job until I started dating and met men who treat money as a gateway into my bed, and maybe that's why I never let men pay for my drinks, just to avoid even that small chance of a subtext that would make me feel indebted. Those moments probably brought me closer to my mother. Never being able to tell her that her life advice saved me from predators who seemed human but fed on women's flesh, draining them of their blood, sometimes until they birthed a son. And yet, for a very long time, I wanted to prove her wrong, show her that it was love that ruled the world, that it was possible to love and be loved without being consumed by capitalism. She told me to marry a man of the same economic background or more, and I would retaliate saying that I only needed love and nothing more. Ironically, not realizing that I mistook her intention. We were on the same page all along, just speaking in different tongues, but perceived differences do hit real hard. Miscommunication can rip you apart. And that's why I moved far, far away from my hometown that never felt like home. People had too much time to stare and grope, interrupting your dreams, fingers to point and poke, to remind you that you had a womb to birth and a vagina to be messed up. Don't you dare try to find pleasure. Thank goodness, my mother's second biggest life advice saved me again. She would warn me seriously and say, I don't care what you do, but you better find a good college outside of this state. As a child, I felt like she just wanted to push me away. Like she didn't love me enough to be with her, and out of spite, of course, I took her advice and found the best college far, far away, moving from the northern plains to the southern coast of India that gave me a sense of liberation and safety, which my hometown never can even today. I felt a belonging like no other. Maybe I felt I belonged because I was an outsider. I did not speak their language, unaware of their culture. At 17, I fell in love with the peace that city brought me despite not knowing anyone. Maybe that's what appealed to me so much. The space to be left by myself and no one controlling my life or reminding me of my gender. Not speaking the same tongue sometimes can bring you a sense of serenity which your hometown makes overbearing, even though you speak the same tongue, live in the same culture, and yet just forget to actually listen and understand each other. That city taught me that comprehending a person had nothing to do with language or culture. Your intentions were what really mattered. I found a tribe that gave me a home away from my hometown, who genuinely cared to know who I was, what I wanted to be, and where I came from. I felt I belonged in places that did not bring me up until graduation, when people left to other cities, offering them fancy packages and fat salaries, and I felt like a foreigner again, not knowing how could homeliness creep out after being so long in a place so beautifully found. And that's where I probably questioned the place and began to see that it were those people, my tribe, that made me feel safe. So I packed my house and took a cab, moved to the Deccan Plains, to the city with most of my mates, and instantly I found my home again, away from my hometown, unsurprisingly yet again. I never wanted to go back. And even when I did, I'd only stay for 5 days, still unable to understand why was I born where I was born? Why do I belong in places that did not bring me up at all? And it was in that city that I probably got some thoughts to find the answers about why I was a runaway girl or perceived that I was. Or why I did not like my mother for a while, why she never wanted me to crush on girls but stay away from boys like all of them were made of menace and misconduct. I never really understood her as a child, but growing through the quarter span of my life, I saw what she did. Despite the cracks in our relationship, maybe that's when I began to see her as a person instead of just being my mother. Why I, like herself, hated my hometown and instead loved my mother's, while she, like myself, never wanted to be trapped but was too young to understand. And so when she pushed me out, she probably decided to ensure my wings never got clipped like hers did, no matter the cost, except that cost was neglect and dismissal of my feelings. As a child, I only wanted a mother's unconditional love, and as a mother and a woman who's seen the world around her, she only wanted what was best for her daughter's future. And we both miserably failed in translating our love for each other despite having the same blood, language, and culture. And maybe that's why I end up finding my home in people away from my hometown that deprived both me and my mother to feel connection. When I did understand her, I knew why I was born where I was born. And it had nothing to do with my hometown, but everything to do with my mother. She called for me without knowing that she did within 10 months of a marriage in a brand new town to a person and his family she knew nothing about. I was born to her, not a place. Her umbilical cord attached to me in that foreign city. We belonged with each other. That was our destiny. True that it took me so long to understand, but when I did, I wanted to reach out and hug her, but didn't know how. So I decided to be her wings. She used to be an artist before her marriage, so when I could earn and pay my own bills, I bought her a set of watercolors and an art kit for 2 consecutive years. I tried to remind her who she was, but she refused to remember for whatever reasons of her own. And so by the third, when she asked me if I needed anything to be shipped from home, I told her to send me a handmade card by post. And the first thing she painted for me was a multicolored pretty birdie. That's when I knew I had to fly for her so she could too. And now she paints huge watercolor canvases to put up on walls. And when she got her first commission at about 50 years old, she excitedly gave me a call. I could hear the joy in her voice, the independence she felt from being paid on her first invoice. I wish I could have hugged her, but the awkwardness still remains from childhood hurt, even though we have a love to die for each other. And maybe it's the rebuilding of our love that makes me want to fly higher. Or maybe it's the realization that no matter how much I love her, I will still be a runaway girl. finding comfort in lands that I was not born, in cultures that are foreign and new, but still make me belong, and find a home in people because I moved to a whole different country within a year of my precious housemate moving on. Maybe I don't find places to belong. Instead, I get called to people who become my home to show me the love and acceptance that I kept seeking for so long. Thank you.
Wow. You always give us goosebumps with your poetries. Last time I heard you in, in Bangalore. Oh God, you performed that poetry. Nazia was there. And today I think this was one of the best performances, best poetries on this platform, I can say. One of the best
Thank
poetries on this
you.
platform. I
Thank you.
mean, amazing. Krishna is also, she also writes something similar to what you have written. But I'll ask Krishna.
Srishtika, when you first said that you have not decided which poem are you going to recite today, I could relate to that very well because that's me every time. And when you said that you haven't even decided the title, so again, that's me. So, and apart from that, uh, whatever you were narrating and uh, things like your mother giving you reality checks and you living in your own utopian world where everything is solved through love and you not liking that idea of capitalism and every little details that you described, I could relate to that and it was beautiful and it gave me goosebumps.
Thank you, Krishna.
Okay, Ariane.
Um, I don't know what to say. I just feel that you narrated my life. It was so beautiful and like I love listening to poetries. I read it. I cannot write. I'm a very, very bad writer when it comes to that. I can paint, but I cannot write. But when you were narrating that poem, I actually created a picture in my head. Hopefully I'll be able to paint it someday. And I'm definitely going to take your ID and tag you there. You gave me a piece today. Trust me. It was beautiful.
That means a lot, Ariana. Thank you.
Okay, Nishita.
Hi, Shrishtika. This is my first time I heard you, and there's so much in your poetry that I think almost every girl in this country can relate to. When you mentioned that you found liberation in a different city, I could relate to that because the first time I felt a very strong sense of liberation was when I was in Goa. I did my MBA from there, and I come from a pretty small town, so that was very relatable. And then the other part that I found very relatable was the pieces of advice that our parents give us. And at the time that they're giving us those advices, they don't make much sense to us. But then years later, it just strikes us that, they were right all along. And yeah, I mean, and the way you recited as well, it was very, very professional. And I loved hearing you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nishita.
Nishita, Srishtika was in Bangalore earlier. She has just moved to Cambridge University few months back
Oh,
only. In our last, last event when we had in Bangalore, she was there. She performed.
okay. Yeah, I'd missed that event.
Yeah. I remember Nazia was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Srishtika, this time Nishita was there. Nishita was also there. She is also from
Oh,
Bangalore. She's
wow.
like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying last time that I missed it this time. Yeah. One thing I miss about being in Bangalore, just all the community that is there.
Chali, thank you. Thank you so much, Srishtika. Such a wonderful poetry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.